What kind of experiments? Belthar's voice came from behind them. He had insisted on Kree's voice shook as she read from the ancient computer. Genetic limitation experiments, neural pathway restrictions, muscle fiber density reduction, reaction time dampening. She looked up at the others. They made species weaker. Dr. Mina moved to another terminal. Her hands trembled as she accessed the files. This one has the complete list. Every species in the galaxy. Every single one has been modified. She scrolled through the data, her face growing more shocked with each entry. Reduced strength by 30%. Limited neural processing to prevent advanced tool use. Capped reaction speeds to ensure. She stopped reading. Her eyes were wet with tears. To ensure what? Ambassador Tay asked quietly. To ensure no species could ever challenge the progenitors. The words fell like stones. Nobody spoke for a long moment. The laboratory hummed with its ancient power, indifferent to the horror of its revelations. High Savant Orn stood frozen. Her silver and gold feathers seemed to have lost their luster. No, this cannot be true. The progenitors were our creators, our guides. They gave us the doctrine to help us reach our full potential. They gave you the doctrine to keep you weak, Hyun said. His voice was hard. He had seen enough injustice in his life to recognize it when he saw it. They were afraid that if you grew too strong you might not need them anymore, might even fight them. Jin was accessing more files. His young face was pale. There's more, much more. This facility is just one of hundreds. They had laboratories on every world they visited. They modified species when they were still primitive, before they could resist. Wu checked another terminal. I found military records. The progenitors fought a war, a big one. They lost badly against someone called the Voss Collective. That was about 12,000 years ago. And then? Velthar asked. And then nothing. The records just stop. The progenitors vanished completely. Dr. Mina straightened up. Because they were destroyed. The Voss wiped them out, and we never knew because we were too busy worshipping them to ask questions. Kree had moved to a different section of the laboratory. She called out, I found something else, look at this. They gathered around her terminal. On the screen was a map of the galaxy. Thousands of worlds were marked in blue, but one small section, far on the edge, was marked in red. What's the red section? Hyun asked. Worlds the progenitors never reached, Kree said. She zoomed in. There were only 3 worlds in the red section. One of them made everyone go silent. Earth. They never came to Earth, Dr. Mina said softly. Humanity developed naturally, without modifications, without restrictions. We are what every species in the galaxy could have been. High Savant Orn made a sound like a sob. She sank to her knees, her head in her hands. 12,000 years. 12,000 years we have lived in a cage and called it paradise. 12,000 years we have limited ourselves and called it righteousness. Ambassador Tay knelt beside her. It is not your fault. You did not know. But we should have questioned. We should have wondered why the gods vanished, why they never returned. We accepted everything without thought, like children. Belthar was staring at his own hands. His claws flexed slowly. My people. We are strong, yes. But according to these records, we should be twice as strong. Our reaction time should be 3 times faster. We have been diminished. All of us have, Kree said quietly. My species too. We should be able to think faster, process information better. But they capped our neural development. Jin continued exploring the computer systems. He found file after file of detailed procedures. How to modify a species without them noticing. How to make the changes hereditary so they would pass down through generations. How to create cultural and religious controls to ensure the modifications were never questioned. It's brilliant, Jin said, then immediately looked ashamed. I mean, it's horrible, but from a technical perspective, it's incredibly sophisticated. They didn't just change your bodies. They changed your cultures. They made you believe that limits were sacred. Wu found something else, a recorded message. It was old, the visual quality poor, but the audio was clear. He played it for everyone. A progenitor appeared on the screen. It looked almost human, but taller and more refined. Its eyes were cold and calculating. It spoke in a language that the translator struggled with at first, then smoothed out. This is Archive Entry 4471. The Voss Collective continues to advance. Our defenses cannot hold. They are too fast, too strong, too adaptable. We made a mistake when we allowed species to develop naturally. We will not make that mistake again. All remaining primitive species in our territory will be modified according to Protocol 7. Future generations will be limited, controlled, and dependent. They will never be able to challenge us. And if we fall, they will never be able to challenge the Voss either. This is mercy. This is kindness. We do this to protect them from their own potential. The message ended. The laboratory was silent except for the hum of machines. Mercy, Hyun repeated. The word tasted bitter. They called this mercy. Dr. Mina was downloading all the data she could carry. We need to take this back. The entire galaxy needs to know the truth. The entire galaxy will riot, Velthar said. This will destroy everything. Governments, religions, the entire social order. It is all built on the doctrine. Better to have truth and chaos than comfortable lies, Hyun said. High Savant Orn stood up slowly. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. He is right. I am a priestess. I have spent my life teaching the doctrine, but I cannot teach a lie. If this is the truth, then everyone must know, no matter the cost. They spent hours in the laboratory gathering data. Jin copied every file he could find. Dr. Mina took genetic samples and technical specifications. Cree documented everything with her scientific instruments. Finally, they had everything they could carry. The journey back to the ship was quiet. Everyone was processing what they had learned. The weight of it was crushing. As they boarded the ship, Wu asked the question that everyone was thinking. What do we do now? Ambassador Tay sat heavily in the captain's chair. Now we go back. We present this evidence to the council, and we prepare for the galaxy to change forever. The return journey took 5 days, just like the trip out. But those 5 days felt much longer. News of their discoveries had already begun to leak. Jin had sent preliminary reports back to Earth. Those reports had been shared with other human colonies. And from there, despite attempts at secrecy, the information had spread. By the time they reached civilized space, riots had broken out on 14 worlds. Religious buildings were being burned. Government officials were being questioned and sometimes attacked. Species were demanding answers about their genetic heritage. The messages flooded in. Some praised the expedition for revealing the truth. Others condemned them for destroying the peace. Death threats came from religious fundamentalists. Support came from scientists and philosophers. Hyun read the messages with a heavy heart. He had just wanted to save Pip. He had not meant to tear apart galactic civilization, but he understood that sometimes truth was more important than peace. Cree was studying the genetic data. I believe the modifications can be reversed, she announced during one of their meetings. It will take time, perhaps generations, but it is possible to restore species to their natural state. My people will want this, Velthar said immediately, to be whole again, to know our true strength. But it is dangerous, Dr. Mina warned. The modifications are deeply integrated. Removing them incorrectly could cause severe damage or death. We need to proceed carefully. How long would it take? Orn asked. For individuals? Years of treatment? For entire populations? Centuries. The changes would need to be made to reproductive cells so that future generations are born without the restrictions. Velthar stood up. I volunteer. When we return, I want to be the first. I have eggs ready to hatch. I want my children to know true strength. I want them to be what my ancestors should have been. It could fail, Mina warned. You could lose the entire clutch. Then I lose them. But I will not raise children in a cage, not when I know the bars were put there by false gods. They reached Keltar 7 3 days later. The colony was in chaos. Workers had stopped working. Everyone was watching news feeds, arguing, sometimes fighting. The progenitor temple in the colony center had been vandalized. Someone had written across its walls. They lied. Sora met them at the docking bay. She hugged Hyun tightly. It's getting bad out there. Some species are handling it better than others. But everyone is angry. They have a right to be angry, Hyun said. I know. But anger without direction becomes violence. We need to give them something constructive to do. Ambassador Tay called for a colony-wide meeting. Everyone gathered in the main assembly hall. Humans, reptilians, insectoids, beings of a dozen species, all united by shock and betrayal. Tay stood at the podium. His voice was calm and clear. You all know why we are here. The doctrine of thresholds is a lie. The progenitors modified your ancestors to keep them weak. This is not theory. This is fact. We have proof. He displayed some of the laboratory footage on the large screens. Aliens watched their genetic code being analyzed and altered by ancient progenitor scientists. Some cried. Some shouted in rage. Some sat in stunned silence, but the question hung in the air like smoke. What else was the Codex wrong about? Nobody wanted to say it out loud, but everyone was thinking it. If the progenitors had been wrong about humans, maybe they had been wrong about everything. High Savant Orn refused to accept it. Her feathers ruffled with agitation as she paced the medical bay. There must be an explanation. Perhaps humans are not a natural species. Perhaps you have modified yourselves with technology or forbidden genetics. Ambassador Tay shook his head calmly. We have not. Earth developed in isolation. We had no contact with galactic civilization until 50 years ago. Our biology is natural and unmodified. Then you are anomalies. Mistakes. The progenitors did not account for you in their divine plan. Dr. Mina pulled up data on a large screen. Charts and graphs filled the display. Let me show you something. This is human cardiac output. Our hearts pump blood more efficiently than the Codex says is possible for a species from a one-gravity world. This is our muscle fiber density. Again, it exceeds the theoretical maximum. This is our neural plasticity, our ability to learn and adapt. Far beyond what the doctrine allows. She changed the display. More data appeared. And it's not just physical. Human athletes train to run faster, jump higher, react quicker. We have records going back thousands of years. We have always pushed against our limits. We break records constantly. Every generation of humans is faster and stronger than the last, not because of genetics but because of training and determination. Cree studied the data with fascination. Her antennae twitched as she processed the information. This concept, training to exceed limits, it is not in our culture. When we reach our threshold as listed in the Codex, we stop. To go further would be to question the progenitors. That is correct, Velthar agreed. We know our place. We know our limits. This is how civilization maintains order. Hyun, who had been quiet for most of the discussion, finally spoke up. What if order is just another word for prison? Everyone turned to look at him. Think about it, he continued. You have these limits written in a book. You never test them. You never try to exceed them. You just accept that this is as good as you can be. But what if you're wrong? What if you could be so much more? High Savant Orn's eyes flashed with anger. You speak blasphemy. I speak truth. On Earth we had a saying. Records are made to be broken. Every time someone runs a race faster than anyone before, everyone says it's the limit. But then someone else comes along and breaks that record too. There is no limit except the one you accept in your mind. Sora nodded. He's right. I've seen it in medicine too. Patients who are told they'll never walk again sometimes do walk because they refuse to accept the limitation. The body is capable of amazing things when the mind pushes it. Dr. Mina smiled. This is what I have been trying to tell the Council for years. The doctrine of thresholds is not divine law. It is a set of guidelines, perhaps even restrictions, and humanity proves that these restrictions are artificial. Artificial? Velthar repeated the word slowly. You are saying the progenitors deliberately limited us? I'm saying it's possible, and there's only one way to find out for sure. Ambassador Tay stepped forward, which is why I am here. The Earth government has been conducting research into progenitor sites. We have found something that might explain everything. But we needed proof that the doctrine could be broken before we could move forward. He looked at Hyun. You gave us that proof. High Savant Orn made a sharp gesture. What have you found? A facility, Tay said. An ancient progenitor station orbiting a dead star. It's called Threshold Station in the old records. We believe it contains the original codex, the source of all the doctrine. Threshold Station is sacred ground, Orn said firmly. It has been sealed for 3,000 years. No one is permitted to enter the deep sections. Then maybe it's time we did, Dr. Mina said. If we want answers, we need to go to the source. The room erupted in argument. Felthar thought it was too dangerous. Orn insisted it was blasphemy. Kree wanted to go immediately for the sake of science. Sora worried about what they might find. Yun stayed quiet, but his mind was already made up. If there were answers, he wanted to find them. Finally, Ambassador Tay raised his hand for silence. The Council has given permission for an expedition. A small team will travel to Threshold Station. We will investigate the deep sections and determine the truth about the doctrine. High Savant Orn will accompany us to ensure proper respect for the site. Hyun will come as proof of human capabilities. Dr. Mina will lead the scientific investigation. I should go too, Kree said quickly. I am a scientist. I can help, Tay nodded. Agreed. We leave in 2 days. Those 2 days passed in a blur. News of the expedition spread through the colony and beyond. Some aliens praised the investigation. Others condemned it. Religious leaders across the galaxy sent messages calling it heresy. Scientists sent messages calling it the most important research mission in history. Hyun spent the time preparing. He packed light, as he always did. Sora helped him check his equipment. She would not be going on the mission, but she would stay at the colony and monitor from there. Be careful, she told him. Whatever you find out there, it's going to change everything. I know. Some people won't want it to change. They'll fight to keep things the way they are. Let them fight. Truth is truth. The expedition ship was sleek and fast. It had been provided by Earth's government, which meant it had technology that some aliens found uncomfortable. It moved faster than Codex ships, used AI that should not be possible, and generally ignored many of the limitations that other species accepted. The crew was small. Hyun, Dr. Mina, Ambassador Tay, High Savant Orn, Kree, and 2 other humans whose names were Wu and Jin. Wu was a security specialist, calm and professional. Jin was a hacker and systems expert, young and eager. The journey to Threshold Station took 5 days. During that time, Dr. Mina explained more about her research. I first began questioning the Codex 20 years ago, she said. They were gathered in the ship's common area, drinking various beverages. I was studying alien biology and noticed inconsistencies. Species that should have been able to develop certain traits but hadn't. Evolutionary paths that seemed blocked for no reason. What did you conclude? Kree asked. That something had interfered with natural evolution? Something had set limits where none should exist. High Savant Orn listened but did not comment. She had been quiet for most of the journey, praying and meditating. Her faith was being challenged, and it showed in her troubled eyes. On the 5th day, they arrived at Threshold Station. It hung in space like a great silver wheel, orbiting a star that had died millions of years ago. The station was enormous, much larger than it appeared in the records. How big is it? Hyun asked. Jin checked his instruments. About 50 kilometers in diameter, but that's just the visible part. Sensors show there are sections deep inside the structure that are even larger. Most of it has been sealed for thousands of years. They docked at one of the outer ports. The station systems activated automatically, recognizing their authorization codes. Air flooded into the docking bay. Gravity generators hummed to life. The interior of the station was beautiful and cold. Everything was made of smooth metal and crystal. Lights glowed softly in the walls. It felt ancient and holy, like walking into a temple. High Savant Orn led them in a prayer. Even those who did not share her faith bowed their heads respectfully. This was a place of great importance to galactic civilization. They moved deeper into the station. The outer sections were familiar. These were the public areas, the places where pilgrims came to view the Codex and pray. The Great Book itself sat in a chamber of pure white light, its pages covered in script that glowed softly, but they did not stop at the Codex. Ambassador Tay led them past the public areas, toward sealed doors that bore warning signs in a dozen languages. Forbidden, sacred, dangerous. Jin stepped forward with his equipment. I can open these doors. The security is old, very old, but it's still functional. Will it trigger alarms? Wu asked. Probably. But we have authorization from the council. We should be okay. Jin worked for an hour, his fingers flying over holographic keyboards. High Savant Orn watched with a mixture of horror and fascination. Finally, there was a deep sound like the groan of ancient metal. The doors began to open. Beyond the doors was darkness. Their lights pierced the shadows, revealing a corridor that stretched far into the distance. The walls were covered in dust. No one had walked here in centuries, maybe longer. They moved forward slowly. The corridor opened into a vast chamber, and what they saw made everyone stop in shock. It was not a temple. It was not a library. It was a laboratory. Rows and rows of equipment filled the space. Machines for genetic manipulation. Computers for biological modeling. Thousands of data storage units. Dr. Mina walked forward slowly, her face pale. Oh gods, they weren't priests. They were scientists. Cree rushed to the nearest computer terminal. It activated at her touch, recognizing biological presence. Data began scrolling across its screen. She read quickly, her eyes widening with each line. This is genetic manipulation technology. Advanced, far beyond anything we have today. And these records? They show experiments. Thousands of experiments on hundreds of species. The magnetic field from Hyun's glove caught the plasma bolt and dispersed it in a shower of blue sparks. The energy scattered harmlessly into the air. The entire event took less than 2 seconds, but to everyone watching, it felt like time had stopped completely. Hyun did not pause. He grabbed the fallen beam and lifted it with both hands. His muscles strained, but he was angry and scared, and that gave him strength. The beam moved. Pip scrambled free, his leg bleeding but not broken. Go, Hyun shouted. Get to safety, Pip ran. Hyun ran after him. Behind them, more regulators began to fail. The whole section was becoming unstable. Workers poured out of the exits. Emergency systems activated, sealing the section behind massive blast doors. In the safety of the main corridor, everyone stood in shocked silence. Pip was crying, holding his injured leg. Medics rushed forward with equipment. But nobody moved to help. They were all staring at Hyun. Velthar was the first to speak. His voice was strange, almost broken. What did you... He could not finish. His translator device was making odd clicking sounds, unable to process whatever he was trying to say. Cree approached slowly. Her multiple eyes were all focused on Hyun. In her hands, she held a small scanning device. She had seen everything. As a scientist, her mind was already working through the calculations. The bolt traveled at 437 meters per second, she said quietly. You were 15.3 meters away when it fired. You reached the interception point in 1.2 seconds. Your hand moved into position with... She paused, checking her device. With a reaction time of 0.031 seconds. The corridor was completely silent now. Even the machine seemed to have stopped humming. That is impossible, Velthar finally managed to say. The codex states clearly. No biological being can react in less than 0.08 seconds. It is the threshold. It is divine law. Hyun was breathing hard. His hand hurt. The glove had protected him from the worst of the heat, but his palm was burned. He looked at all the staring faces around him. I just did what I had to do. You broke the doctrine, Velthar said. His voice was shaking. You moved faster than the gods said was possible. An older alien worker, a being covered in thick fur, stepped forward. Maybe his equipment malfunctioned. Maybe the scanners are wrong. Cree shook her head. I recorded everything. The data is accurate. I can show you. More workers began talking at once. Some were excited. Some were frightened. Some were angry. Their entire understanding of reality had just been challenged. If a human could break the doctrine, what did that mean? Were the progenitors wrong? Was everything a lie? Sora pushed through the crowd. When she saw Hyun, relief flooded her face. Are you hurt? My hand. It's not bad. She took his hand gently and examined it. The burn was painful but not serious. She applied a medical gel from her kit. As she worked, she whispered, What did you just do? I don't know, Hyun whispered back. I didn't think. I just moved. Velthar was talking into a communication device. His voice was urgent. Yes, I need to speak with the council immediately. We have a situation. A human has violated the doctrine of thresholds. No, this is not a joke. I have data. I have witnesses. Cree was still watching Hyun with her many eyes. I need to test you, she said. Properly. With controlled conditions. This changes everything we know about biology, about physics, about the limits set by the progenitors. I don't want to be tested, Hyun said. You must be, Velthar interrupted, putting away his communicator. The council is sending a delegation. They will arrive in 3 days. Until then, you are not to leave the colony. You are not to speak to outsiders about this incident. Am I under arrest? Velthar's eyes were troubled. I do not know. We have no laws for this. No one has ever broken the doctrine before, not in 12,000 years of recorded history. The next 3 days were strange. Hyun was not locked up, but he was watched constantly. Wherever he went, workers stared at him. Some looked at him with awe, like he was something holy. Others looked at him with fear, like he was a monster. Kree came to him every day with her instruments. She wanted to test his reaction time, his strength, his processing speed. Hyun agreed because he did not know what else to do. The results confused everyone. Your strength is normal for a human, Kree explained, looking at her data. You are not a giant. You do not have super muscles. But you lifted that beam, which should have been too heavy for you. Adrenaline, Hyun said. Humans get stronger when we're scared or angry. It's temporary. That is not in the Codex. The Codex says strength is fixed. The Codex is wrong. Kree made a chittering sound. It was her version of a laugh. I am beginning to think you are right. She showed him more results. His reaction time varied. Sometimes it was 0.08 seconds. Sometimes it was faster. Much faster. You're not trying to be fast, Kree observed. When you think about it, you are slower. When you do not think, when you just react, you are much faster. That's how reflexes work, Hyun said. Thinking slows you down. But the Codex says reflexes have a maximum speed. You exceed that maximum. Hyun looked at the small insectoid scientist. Kree, can I ask you something? Has anyone ever tried to exceed their limits? Has anyone trained to be faster or stronger? Kree's antennae drooped. No, that would be blasphemy. The doctrine says we are at our maximum. To try to exceed it would be to question the progenitors. We do not question gods. Maybe you should. On the 3rd day, the delegation arrived. Their ship was large and impressive. It landed in the colony's main docking bay with a great hiss of engines. The workers all gathered to watch. 3 figures emerged from the ship. The first was a tall, elegant alien with bird-like features. Her feathers were silver and gold. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent. Her name was High Savant Orn, and she was a priest of the progenitor faith. The second figure was human. He was older than Hyun, with gray in his hair and serious eyes. His name was Tae, and he was an Earth ambassador. He saw Hyun in the crowd and gave a small nod. The third figure was also human, a woman with kind eyes and an air of authority. She introduced herself as Dr. Mina, a xenobiologist. She had studied alien species for 30 years. Velthar greeted them formally. Welcome to Keltar 7. The human is here as requested. High Savant Orn looked directly at Hyun. Her gaze was intense. You are the one who broke the sacred doctrine? I caught a plasma bolt, Hyun said carefully. I saved a life. You violated divine law. Ambassador Tae stepped forward. With respect, High Savant, we should investigate before making judgments. Perhaps there is an explanation that fits within the doctrine. There is no explanation, Orn said coldly. Only truth or heresy. Dr. Mina was kinder. She approached Hyun with a gentle smile. I would like to examine you if you permit, not as a prisoner, but as a scientist. I believe you may help us understand something very important. What? Whether the doctrine of thresholds is actually true, Velthar hissed in shock. Several alien workers made religious gestures. To question the doctrine was to question everything. But Hyun saw something in Dr. Mina's eyes. A hope, a curiosity, maybe even a certainty that she already knew the answer. Okay, Hyun said. Test me, find your truth. They moved to the medical bay. Sora was already there, preparing equipment. More colony workers crowded outside, trying to see through the windows. This was the biggest event in Keltar 7's history. For the next several hours, they ran tests. Reaction time tests, strength tests, neural processing tests. Every test gave the same result. Hyun was faster and stronger than the Codex said was possible. But Dr. Mina did not stop there. She turned to Sora. May I test you as well? Sora looked surprised. Me? I haven't done anything special. Humor me, Sora agreed. The tests ran again. The results were similar. Sora also exceeded the Codex limits, not by as much as Hyun, but enough to matter. Ambassador Tay smiled grimly. Test me too. He also exceeded the limits. High Savant Orn watched all of this with growing horror. This cannot be. 3 humans? All exceeding the doctrine? Dr. Mina turned to face everyone in the room. Not just 3. All humans. Every single human in this colony will exceed the Codex limits if we test them. I have been studying this for years. That is impossible, Velthar said. No, Dr. Mina replied. It is not impossible, it is fact. And if the Codex is wrong about humans, then we must ask ourselves, what else is it wrong about? The mining colony of Keltar 7 hummed with the sound of machines and alien voices. Hyun wiped sweat from his forehead as he worked on the plasma conduits. The metal was hot under his hands, even through his work gloves. Around him, workers from a dozen different species moved about their tasks. A tall reptilian alien walked past. His name was Velthar, and he was the security chief of the colony. His scales were dark green and his eyes were sharp. He stopped to watch Hyun work. Human Hyun, Velthar said, his voice deep and formal. You should move faster. That conduit needs to be ready before the next shift. Hyun nodded without looking up. I know, almost done. Velthar made a clicking sound with his tongue. It meant disapproval. Humans, your reaction time is ranked 47th among known species. Your strength is 52nd. It is written in the Codex. The Codex. Everyone spoke of it like it was a holy book. In a way it was. The Progenitor Codex contained all the rules about what each species could and could not do. It listed the maximum speed a being could run, how fast they could think, how strong they could be. These were not suggestions. They were limits set by the progenitors, the ancient gods who had created order in the galaxy thousands of years ago. Hyun had heard it all before. He just worked quietly. In the medical bay, Sora was finishing her rounds. She was a human medic, trained on Earth before coming to this distant colony. A small insectoid worker named Kree sat on the examination table. Kree's multiple eyes blinked independently as Sora checked her vital signs. Your antenna is healing well, Sora said with a smile. You should be back to full duty tomorrow. Thank you, Medic Sora, Kree replied. Her voice was high and musical. I was careless. I moved too fast and hit the pipe. The doctrine says my species should not move faster than 3 meters per second. I forgot myself, Sora paused. You were moving 3 meters per second when you hit the pipe? Yes, the maximum for my kind. It is in the Codex. Sora wanted to say something but stopped herself. She had read the Codex when she first arrived. It said humans could not react faster than 0.08 seconds, but Sora knew that was wrong. She had watched Olympic athletes on Earth react in 0.10 seconds to a starting gun, and then move their entire bodies in complex ways. The total reaction time was much faster than 0.08 seconds. But who was she to question the Codex? She was just a medic. That evening, Hyun and Sora met in the small human quarters. There were only 12 humans on Keltar 7. They liked to eat dinner together when they could. Another day of being reminded that we're mediocre, Hyun said, biting into his food. The colony food was not great, but it was edible. Sora laughed. Velthar again? Always. He loves to quote the Codex, 47th in reaction time, 52nd in strength. We're barely above average, apparently. Sora leaned back in her chair. I've been thinking about that. The numbers in the Codex don't match what I know about human abilities. Earth athletes do things that the Codex says are impossible. Hyun raised an eyebrow. Like what? Reaction times, for one. The Codex says the absolute maximum biological reaction time is 0.08 seconds, but human sprinters react to starting guns faster than that. Then there's strength. The Codex has these ratios for strength to mass. Human weightlifters exceed those ratios regularly. Maybe Earth humans are different from colony humans. No? Sora shook her head. I checked my own reflexes. I'm faster than the Codex says I should be. You probably are too. Hyun thought about this. So what does it mean? I don't know. Maybe the Codex is old and needs updating. Maybe the progenitors didn't know about humans. Or maybe, she stopped, maybe what? Maybe the Codex is wrong. They both sat in silence. To say the Codex was wrong was like saying gravity did not exist. The entire galactic civilization was built on the doctrine of thresholds. Every species knew their place, their limits, their maximum potential. It kept order. It kept peace. The next morning, there was a safety briefing. All the workers gathered in the main hall. Velthar stood at the front. his posture rigid and official. "We will be opening Section 7 today," he announced. "This section has unstable plasma regulators. You must wear full protective gear. If there is a plasma discharge, you must evacuate immediately. Do not try to be brave. Do not try to save equipment." An alien worker raised a hand. "What if someone is trapped?" Belthar's face was hard. "Then they die. Plasma bolts travel at 437 meters per second. Even the fastest species cannot react in time. The doctrine is clear. No biological being can react in 0.08 seconds. It is impossible. You must accept this and follow protocol." Hyun listened but said nothing. In his mind, he remembered things from his past. He had not always been a mining engineer. Before coming to the colony, he had been other things. An athlete. A soldier. He had been trained to move fast, to react without thinking. But that was a long time ago, and he did not talk about it. The meeting ended. Workers collected their gear and headed to Section 7. Kree walked beside Hyun. She was excited because she was a scientist as well as a worker. She loved studying limits and thresholds. "Hyun, do you ever wonder what it would be like to exceed your limits?" she asked. "What do you mean?" "The Codex says I can think at a certain speed, move at a certain speed. But sometimes I wonder, what if I could be faster? What if the limit is not real?" Hyun glanced at the small insectoid. "That's dangerous thinking, Kree. I know. But I am a scientist. I must question things." They entered Section 7. The room was large and filled with thick pipes. Plasma energy flowed through these pipes, powering the mining equipment. The air smelled like ozone and hot metal. Workers spread out, each checking different sections. Hyun moved to his assigned area. He could feel the heat from the pipes through his suit. Everything seemed normal at first. Then he heard a sound, a deep grinding noise that should not be there. He looked up. One of the regulators was glowing red. That was wrong. Very wrong. "We have a problem," he shouted. Alarms began to wail. The grinding sound became a scream of stressed metal. Workers started running toward the exits just as they had been trained. Then Hyun saw him. A young Keltar worker named Pip. He had been standing too close when a support beam fell. The beam was not heavy enough to crush him, but it pinned his leg. Pip struggled, his eyes wide with fear. Above Pip, a plasma regulator was failing. Hyun knew what was about to happen. He had seen it in training videos. When a regulator failed completely, it discharged all its energy in one massive bolt. That bolt would kill anything in its path. The regulator made a high-pitched whine. Time seemed to slow down. Hyun saw the bolt beginning to form, a bright blue-white light building up inside the regulator. In 2 seconds, maybe 3, it would fire. Pip was directly in its path. Every worker was running away. That was protocol. That was the law. That was what the doctrine demanded. Hyun ran toward Pip instead. Somewhere in his mind, old training woke up. His body calculated distances, speeds, angles. 15 meters to Pip. The bolt would fire in approximately 2.3 seconds. Bolt speed 437 meters per second. Reaction time needed, faster than should be possible. The regulator exploded with light. The plasma bolt fired, a streak of deadly energy lancing through the air. It would reach Pip in a fraction of a heartbeat. Hyun's hand shot out. His work glove had magnetic components designed for handling metal tools. He had never used it this way before, but instinct guided him. His palm intercepted the bolt's path. The impossible happened. His hand caught the plasma bolt midair. The galaxy did not take the news well. Within weeks, civilization fractured into groups that grew more divided each day. Some clung to the old ways, insisting the progenitors had been wise and good despite the evidence. Others wanted immediate change, demanding genetic restoration regardless of the risks. And many simply felt lost, their entire worldview shattered overnight. Keltar 7 became the center of it all. The small mining colony transformed into a research hub. Scientists from 100 worlds arrived to study the progenitor data. Religious leaders came to debate theology. Politicians came to argue about regulations and rights. And ordinary beings came hoping to be restored to what they should have been. Dr. Mina led the genetic restoration program. She worked with a team that included Dr. Day, a human geneticist who had spent 20 years studying alien biology. Together, they developed protocols for safely reversing the progenitor modifications. "We must go slowly," Day explained to a group of eager volunteers. "The changes have been in your genetic code for 12,000 years. Your entire biology has adapted around them. If we simply remove the restrictions all at once, your body might not survive the shock. One volunteer, a young reptilian female, raised her hand. How long will it take? For you personally, probably 5 to 7 years of treatments. You will feel yourself getting stronger, faster, smarter over time. But the real benefit will be for your children. If you undergo the full treatment before reproduction, your offspring will be born without the restrictions. Velthar was the first to complete the initial phase. He stood in the medical bay while Sora ran diagnostic scans. His body had changed subtly. His muscles were denser. His reflexes were sharper. He could feel the difference every moment. How do you feel? Sora asked. Velthar flexed his claws. Like I have been asleep my whole life and only now am I waking up. Like I have been walking with weights on my legs and only now are they removed. He looked at his hands with wonder. Is this how humans feel all the time? We're just normal, Hyun said. He was there to observe the process. This is how you should have always felt. Velthar's eggs hatched 2 months later. His children emerged strong and quick. The medical team ran tests immediately. The modifications were gone. These babies were natural, unaltered by progenitor interference. Velthar wept when he saw the results. But not every story had a happy ending. A young insectoid named Rixta, inspired by Hyun's famous catch of the plasma bolt, tried to push past her limits before undergoing treatment. She attempted an impossible jump during training. Her body, still bound by progenitor restrictions, could not handle the strain. She shattered 3 legs and damaged her primary nerve cluster. Sora worked for 8 hours to save her life. When Rixta woke up in the medical bay, she was alive but would never fully recover. The nerve damage was permanent. Hyun visited her during her recovery. She could barely speak, her translator damaged along with her body. But she managed to whisper, "I wanted to be like you." "Don't try to be like me," Hyun said gently. "Be like yourself, but better. But you have to do it the right way. Let the doctors help you first. Then push your limits." Rixta's accident became a cautionary tale. The galaxy learned that inspiration without preparation was dangerous. Many species slowed down their demands for immediate restoration and accepted the long timeline. Meanwhile, the political situation grew worse. 3 planets declared independence from the Galactic Council, claiming that a government built on progenitor lies had no authority. 2 religious civil wars erupted as traditionalists fought against reformers. Trade routes shut down as paranoid governments worried about genetic contamination. Ambassador Tay spent most of his time mediating conflicts. He traveled from world to world, trying to keep civilization from tearing itself apart. But he was only one human, and the galaxy was vast. Then the first test results came back from a group of volunteers who had completed the full genetic restoration program. Their abilities had increased by an average of 40%. Strength, speed, reaction time, cognitive function all showed dramatic improvement. These beings were finally becoming what their ancestors should have been. The results sparked both hope and fear. Hope from those who wanted restoration, fear from those who worried about creating super beings. What would happen to social order if some members of a species became vastly superior to others? Would the restored oppress the unrestored? Would new hierarchies form based on genetic status? Kree emerged as a voice of reason in these debates. She had undergone partial treatment herself and could already think faster than before. Her scientific papers on the subject were read across the galaxy. "Genetic restoration is not about creating superiority," she wrote. "It is about restoring equality. We are not making ourselves better than natural. We are making ourselves natural again. The progenitors made us inferior. We are simply correcting their crime." High Savant Orn took a different path. She could not undergo genetic restoration because her species had been modified so extensively that reversal was impossible with current technology. But she found a new purpose. She began writing a book called The Book of Broken Thresholds, documenting the truth about the progenitors and offering a new philosophy for a post-doctrine galaxy. "We worship the wrong gods," she wrote. "The true divine is not in beings who limit us, but in the potential within ourselves. Every species has sacred worth not because of who created them, but because of what they can become." Her book became the foundation for a new religious movement, one that celebrated growth and potential rather than fixed limits. Many former followers of the doctrine found comfort in her words. But while the galaxy struggled with internal conflicts, something else was happening. Strange signals were being detected at the edges of civilized space. Ships were disappearing. Entire research outposts went silent. Then came the message. It was broadcast on all frequencies in every language. The translation was perfect, which made it even more terrifying. We are the Voss Collective. 12,000 years ago, we removed the progenitors from this galaxy because they had become weak and corrupt. We have been watching the younger species, waiting to see if you would break free of your cage. You have waited too long. You have remained weak for millennia when you should have evolved. But now you show promise. Now you begin to change. We will test you. If you are worthy, you may continue to exist. If you are not, you will be removed like the progenitors before you. Prepare yourselves. We arrive in 30 days. The galaxy panicked. The Voss were the monsters from ancient nightmares, the beings powerful enough to destroy the progenitors, and they were coming. Ambassador Tay called an emergency council session. Representatives from every major species gathered in a massive virtual conference. The debate was loud and chaotic. We must surrender immediately, one representative said. We cannot fight beings who destroyed the progenitors. We must fight, another argued. Better to die free than live as slaves. We should ask the humans, a third voice said. They are the only ones who have always been free. They might know how to resist. All eyes turned to Tay. The human ambassador stood slowly. The Voss are wrong about one thing. You have not remained weak. You have remained strong despite the progenitors' attempts to break you. You have built a civilization that has lasted 12,000 years. You have maintained peace between 100 different species. That takes strength of a different kind. But we cannot fight, someone protested. Our military technology is designed around our limited capabilities. We have never needed to be aggressive because we accepted our place in the order. Then we change, Tay said simply. The Voss give us 30 days. That is not much time, but it is enough to start. We have human military doctrine, human training methods, human technology. We share all of it. Every species learns how humans fight, how we think, how we push past limits. Dr. Mina spoke up from her seat. And we accelerate the genetic programs. We have developed a temporary enhancement treatment. It is risky, and the effects only last a few months, but it can give restored abilities quickly. How risky? Someone asked. 20% chance of serious side effects. 5% chance of death. The room went quiet. Those were terrible odds. Velthar stood up. His restored body was stronger now, more confident. I volunteer. My species volunteers. We have lived 12,000 years as shadows of what we should be. If we must risk death to be whole again, even temporarily, then so be it. Others began volunteering. Not everyone. Many were too afraid. But enough. Enough to matter. The galaxy mobilized like never before. Military academies were established using human instructors. Wu led training programs teaching tactics that focused on speed and aggression, rather than defensive positions. Jin worked with alien engineers to unlock weapon systems that had been deliberately limited by progenitor design. Old warships were refitted with technologies that their original builders had thought impossible. Hyun found himself in an unexpected role. He became a trainer, teaching mixed-species combat teams. His first class included beings from 6 different worlds, all of them struggling to unlearn 12,000 years of accepted limitations. The hardest part is not your body, he told them. It is your mind. You have been taught your whole life that there are walls you cannot climb.